Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call this meeting of the Investing in Infrastructure Committee to order. And we do have quorum. A couple of changes here. Back in the 30th of July, we actually had two council members and 5 members of the public. We're currently down to one council member, and I understand recently appointed Councillor Ennis has resigned from the committee, so we're now down to I think 5 members. So we have a quorum. So we can move ahead. Welcome to everyone. And we're assisted today by our Director of Engineering, Victoria, our newly appointed Deputy Clerk, Allison, and our always more than capable Admin Assistant, Sue Brown. So we'll call the meeting to order, and I'll ask you to join with me briefly for a moment of reflection before we deal with the business at hand. Thank you. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest around the table? If indeed something should arise later on, feel free to mention the issue at that time. Public participation. We'll begin with that. Members of the public are encouraged to provide the committee with their comments and questions. Presentations must be prearranged with legislative services before the agenda is released. Members of the public who wish to make a deputation about a specific agenda item at the meeting must register in advance with legislative services by 4 p.m. The day before, on this case, November 4th, 2025, by contacting our Deputy Clerk at meaford.ca or calling 519-538-1060, extension 1110. Presentations are limited to 10 minutes and deputations are limited to 5 minutes. And by the looks of it, we don't have any presentations today, nor deputations. So we'll go ahead with number 5, which is the approval of the minutes from previous meetings. And we have 2 sets of minutes. The one from July 30th has some details. The one from September 3rd, unfortunately, we didn't have quorum, so that's not a very long list of minute items on that. So can I have a mover and a seconder to the recommendation that the minutes of July 30th, 2025 and September 3, 2025 meetings of the Investing in Infrastructure Advisory Committee be approved as presented? Mike and George, thank you. Any discussion, question about the minutes? If not, I'll just mention the second. Let's see, 6C in the July 30th minutes. That concerned Georgian Bay Harbor Limited. The developer there has chosen to take us to the Ontario Land Tribunal on that one. So that's in the works, and I think that's all I can say about it. So if there's nothing more, can I ask for your vote in favor of approving those minutes? Thank you. That's passed. Items for consideration, it says none. And so I guess we'll go to number 7, and that is a little lengthier situation. And I believe, Victoria, you're going to take the lead on this one, so I'll let you get right into it.
Hello. Microphone. Oh. Thank you, Councillor Greenfield. I should know this. And hello to everyone else. My name is Tori Perry-Maybida, and I am the Director of Engineering. And the reason why you will have not seen me since this committee has started is that I've been off on maternity leave, and I have recently been back. So I'm excited to be able to bring you a 2025 capital budget update. I have tried to mimic the update that you received, I think, in May of just what our capital projects in 2025 were, so that you can kind of have some consistency, and I can give you some understanding of maybe why you'll see some variations between the two documents. But I can get started. Also, if you have any questions along the way, feel free to ask them, because there's a lot of different projects, so it's probably just easier to get them, like talk about them as we kind of get to them. Oh, thank you. Okay, here we go. As you would have seen in that original presentation, this is just a framework of our capital budgeting framework, which included a 1% increase to our roads budget, a 1% increase to our bridges budget, and a 0.5% increase to our facilities budget. These increases came about as we have done work to identify the amount of work we have on our infrastructure to make sure that we are staying up to date on both rehabilitation and replacement. And so we're working on ensuring that we're kind of closing some of those funding gaps so that we have enough funding to keep on top of our aging infrastructure. So going through the projects we had planned for this year, we'll start with roads. And so we are doing a road resurfacing and rehabilitation program following a 2-year cycle. And rehabilitation was scheduled for 2025. With this upcoming year, you'll see we're doing more resurfacing work. The resurfacing work is less invasive, so we're really just putting something on top of the existing asphalt surface or surface treated roads. We might see some asphalt being replaced, but we aren't going to full depth. Whereas those rehabilitations, we're really taking it all of the hard surface and replacing everything that is there. So this year we have completed the Euphrasia St. Vincent Town Line reconstruction. This was done in conjunction with Grey Highlands. They were the ones responsible for the project. And as you can see here, there were a slight increase in what the actual project costs were, but with some cost splitting, we actually didn't see the additional costs. They went to Grey Highlands. LCB rehabilitation on 11th line. So that work is complete as well. And as you can see, we were well within the budget on that project, which is exciting to see. And the asphalt rehabilitation on the 3rd line in Aiken Street is actually now complete with some minor deficiency work ongoing. As you can see, that project also came in under what we were anticipating. We are trying to lump together some larger projects so that we're seeing more favorable costing. And so we're kind of starting to see that, and we'll be able to use that to better budget for some of our future projects. Does anyone have any questions on any of these?
Just these roads all look wonderful. They're such an improvement. Michael?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to our director. The trustees of the Blue Water District School Board have proposed a build for a K or JK to 3 school on Aiken Street property. If that were to be approved, does that affect how that road that was just rebuilt? Is there anything that needs to be done to facilitate a school going there?
Through Councillor Greenfield, the work that we did was really just to get us through a time period, we know there's a number of potential developments in that area that will utilize that road. We couldn't really sit on it any longer. It wasn't a condition that something needed to happen. And so this was seen as a short-term fix, so that those developments can proceed. And then once they are done, we can determine what is exactly needed there, and we can proceed with a larger project. I think all of Aiken Street can use some reconsideration in what it looks like. And so we're really just trying to make sure that that road is still functioning and what it needs to. And as we move forward, we'll figure out what that can look like. But we don't want that construction to impede that longer, like to impact a plan that we do more work right now, and then all of a sudden we're having to redo it. So this was really a stopgap before a bigger project happens. Okay. Oh, yep.
Right?
Oh, and sorry, to highlight the Aiken Street project, as you can see the before and after photos. The road was in quite like it had a significant amount of cracking. We were losing a lot of that edge of pavement, and so as you can see, it's in significantly more usable condition, and will allow for that kind of stopgap until we see something bigger in this area.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the rehabilitation on the third line at the top of the hill. Is that?
I don't know the exact location. I apologize. I just haven't been involved in the projects actually occurring. But I can look into the exact location.
New pavement at the top of the third line
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah,
So that's where, yeah,
And
sorry,
it
that's
goes
where it
down
would
in
be.
The hollow, which used to be really rough.
Mhm.
Now, with the rehabilitation instead of a reconstruction in the hollow, what's a lifeline of that rehabilitation when the underlying clay might be mobile?
So we would have looked at to determine that like this is an acceptable work currently based on what is there, and what the condition of the pavement was. We will continue looking at our road sections. We do scans to determine the condition of the roads on an ongoing basis. But we do review all of them before we proceed with the work to determine that we are doing the right work for what is there. So I don't know an exact lifespan of that section, but before we did the work, we definitely did a review to make sure that it could handle it for an extended period of time.
Well, it does drive nicely now, so with that. But before we get to bridges, is there anything planned for Trowbridge Street and Union Street at Louisa? I mean, those are really, really rough areas. I mean,
So Trowbridge Street West, there will be some discussion about a project later on in this slideshow, if that's the specific, I think.
Thompson? I think Trowbridge and Thompson.
Yeah, so all of Trowbridge Street West.
Okay.
From Sykes to Owen, right up to where
Yeah.
where it bends. So Cook, Thompson. Yeah, Craig. Another part of the third line project was to mention that hollow. That culvert is I believe bigger and certainly longer than it used to be. So, and
Okay.
we did build it up some, so it's considerably superior to what it was. Okay, so go ahead, Victoria.
Okay, so for our bridges, we do a review of our bridges every 2 years as we are required to, and we use the information from those to determine what we need to prioritize. And so for most of our bridge projects, we require 2 years, where the first year we're focusing on engineering, and the second year we then construct the design. And we this year lumped some of them together as there was similar work happening. So you will have seen that structure 69 was completed. It is now open. It is on the seventh line here. And we currently have, well, potentially not today because it's raining, but we currently have contractors on site at Bridge 133. They're putting in the structure currently, and so that will also be open shortly. Both of those projects were within the expected budget. I'll give a bit more information on Bridge 69 as it ended up kind of going in a different direction as than we expected originally, but I'll do that on the next slide. Bridge 125 is a bridge on our trail system, and we are currently under review of studies. There is been identified that there is historical value to that bridge, and so we just need to figure out how we can proceed with making sure that we are meeting the provincial guidelines and making sure that it is recognized, but we allow for safe travel in that area. And then we also have structure 35 and 46 currently in the design process, and there are public meetings that you'll see scheduled shortly if anyone is interested in coming out and providing more insight on those bridges. So we are still working on finalizing design. And as discussed, so this is bridge structure 69. So as you would see on the last slide, that this project was actually originally identified to be a rehabilitation of the bridge. But when we worked through the engineering process, it was identified to us that for an almost insignificant amount of more money, that we should be looking at replacing the bridge. So the budget was minimally impacted. But that the rehabilitation that was required was so significant that it wasn't worth the investment for the lifespan we were going to get out of it. And so on top of the replacement, we also looked at and ended up proceeding with making the bridge wider than you would typically see some of our bridges. And so it looks a little bit different because a lot of our bridges, when you drive over them, you might not even notice they're there, right? They're kind of not much wider than the road itself. This one is significantly wider, and what that allowed is that we aren't required to put guide rails on it because that width allows for kind of the protection of cars. And so it reduces the maintenance in the long run, and then it didn't require us to actually install those guide rail systems, which are quite costly. So we're excited to kind of look at a different approach for this bridge, and we'll be seeing if it's an option in other locations as well.
I was across Bridge 069 this morning, and it's a wonderful construction. And yeah, the width is really good. It's certainly going to facilitate getting the snow back, whereas a narrow bridge restricts that. 133, which is the bridge on site 08. I did visit it this morning also. The bridge company, people, the abutments are in, the deck is on, and they thought their work might be done today or tomorrow. So, and then we have to backfill. Is that deck going to be concrete eventually, Victoria, or are we just going to gravel over it? Do you know what that finished?
I can follow up.
surface
I
like?
do recall, I think potentially we might be putting asphalt on it, but it might be gravel, but I can follow up to see what that will end up looking like.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, on to facilities.
Yep.
Yes,
Thank you. Victoria, is Bridge 69, is that a box culvert, a large box culvert? I can't quite tell from the photo whether it's pour in place or what the construction may be. And if it is, that's a terrifically big size, which means, you know, you can solve a lot of smaller water courses with these nice big box culverts. I just can't tell what it is.
Through Councillor Greenfield, I unfortunately wasn't involved during the design or construction, but it looks like it potentially would essentially be pieces. So it would be like a bunch of pieces that they put in together. So yeah, cast like offsite brought in. I know that we had a similar design for another bridge we have done on the 7th line as well. So yeah, obviously like it's too large for one piece, but they're able to essentially piece it together on site and then put a membrane on top of that structure. Okay, facilities. So we use various tools to identify facility project needs, including our building condition assessment, which we have had completed in the past couple of years, our asset management plans, business continuity strategies, and our health and safety evaluations. Going through these projects, we had identified a fume hood and exhaust system replacement at Patrol B that was canceled because of upgrades that we did in 2024 that no longer required this additional project because we did do HVAC work in that location. We did some work on the garage door motors at both Patrol A and Patrol B that has been completed. We are in the process of proceeding with the boiler system replacement at Meaford Hall. We have done a fair amount of work in the HVAC system there over the past couple of years because it has reached end of life. So as much as we haven't spent any of that to date, we will be proceeding with it shortly. And so there will be an award report, most likely, I think it's within the required amount, coming to council if we're required to do that shortly. And then the William Croft Athletic Field washroom renovation. We had an engineering study completed on that building to determine if a more extensive project was required, but the structure itself is in good condition. There's just some upgrades that need to happen to the fixtures in the facility. And so we are looking at kind of some options of what that looks like. And we'll either come back to council with a report or proceed if they're within kind of the project description that we've already identified. We have done a furnace replacement at Woodford Hall. The Woodford Hall ramp and stair replacement project came from a damage or has been further caused by damage that happened there last winter. We have done some minor repairs, but we do have work scheduled with our internal team to complete the rest of that work this year. The Harbor Pavilion windscreen replacement has been completed and installed. We had a project to complete built up roofing and gravel renewal at the arena. What we have done to date is we've done some rehabilitation work to ensure that there isn't the ice damming that we were seeing in that location, but it is a temporary fix. From additional review during this process, it was identified that the arena itself does need a new roof in its entirety, and it is quite a significant project. So instead of doing rehabilitation that wouldn't provide us that much longevity, we are going to be looking at putting money aside over numerous years until we can fund a full replacement project. So the rest of this money will be going into reserves to help with that eventual replacement. At 21 Trowbridge Street, we are installing a generator. The project has been awarded, and so we're just waiting for that installation to happen. And it will be going on the roof of that building so that it doesn't impede the walkway or that parking lot for that facility. And the museum fence was completed. Does anyone have any questions about our facility projects?
That's good. Okay, the Trowbridge Street generator, right? This is a replacement, is it not? Like have we not had a generator backup system there?
No, we haven't had one. We do have battery backups
Okay.
for our server, but that's the only thing that we have prioritized in that facility. But through more review, we have determined, and it has been a discussion for a while, but that we definitely need something more at that facility. We have chosen a generator size that will run most of the building, but not necessarily all of its functions, because it provided a significantly more cost-effective approach than doing something that would run everything that that building could power. It used to be a garage, like our public works facility, and so the capabilities of that building are much more than what we need now. And so we really tried to look at what we need and make sure that the front end of that office can run so that the public wouldn't see an interruption, but we can figure out other ways to kind of deal with the rest of the building.
That's good news. When we get our wonderful new website going, we don't want it not being available. You know, okay, so just going back to the arena roof, you said well, they could be putting money away in reserve for a few years. Did I hear that correct? Okay, so that's sounding like a major project.
Yes, there are kind of two projects at the arena that we see needing significant funds in the near future, the roof being one and the ice surface being the other. So everything that allows the ice surface to function. So the piping in the concrete floor that cool the ice surface, the boards and everything around that. So we're looking at how we can put money away to kind of fund both of those projects. But we are looking in the millions for that work. And so we just want to make sure that we are appropriately putting money away because they exceed our annual facility budget. And so when we need to do those, we just need to make sure that we have appropriately planned for them. So putting this money away to ensure kind of a start to that will be helpful. But when we spoke with the contractors, it was just determined that if we were to do the rehab, it wasn't going to provide the investment that we would hope. And so we're really at a point where replacement is needed probably within the next 3 to 5 years.
Well, thanks for that, Victoria.
Mhm. The structure
Yeah.
itself is in good condition.
Yeah.
It's just the roof does need to be replaced.
Do you have an idea of the cost of that on this 55 to 60-year-old building?
It is my understanding from what I've heard is that it probably could be upwards of 2 million. And so we do recognize that like between that and the ice surface, there is significant investment that building needs. But what we need to recognize is that while yes, the building isn't new, we should anticipate that in the lifespan of an arena, we should be replacing the floor probably twice in the lifespan, and we have yet to have to. So we're actually been lucky and maybe been we've allowed it and gotten it to go well beyond its expected life. The same with roofs or different aspects. Sometimes there is just that need in the life of a building that work has to be done. And so we want to make sure obviously that it stays open. There is currently no plan for any different direction with that facility. And so we recognize the importance of it to keep it functioning to the end of its life. So while yes, it sometimes does seem like there's significant cost nearing the end of life. We still have a fair amount of life in that building, and positively the structure itself is in very good condition, because through provincial requirements, we actually need to inspect the structure often. I think it's every 5 years. And so we've had nothing significant come back through those, that we've had to do any significant rehabilitation work. So the structure itself is in really good condition.
Now, that cost of the roof would likely be more than the cost of the arena built in 1976. I would expect. But anyway, as Victoria says, we've had some good luck. Greg?
Question about the arena roof, there's just the decking of the roof that needs replacing and not the structural elements, so.
Yeah, so nothing, my understanding is that nothing in the structure itself. So the structure is like a steel support system. And so it's in good condition. It's just the roof that essentially sits on top of it that we would need to be replacing. And as we continue kind of going down, we will dig into more of exactly what that is and the exact components that will be included in that project. But know that the actual structure won't be impacted by it. Okay. Moving on to our general capital projects. So these are any projects that fall outside of our 2.5% increase framework. So anything that is not a road, bridge, or facility. So there's projects that span all different things in this bucket. We completed some upgrades at the Leith Beach, which included site works. We put some stones in place of previous wooden posts. The work completed to date has been under budget, and they're reviewing to see if they can complete some other work there. We recently were at council for the splash pad replacement to approve some changes to that work. Or in upcoming weeks, there will be some work completed to move the existing playground equipment further back to provide more space for the new splash pad on this site. It will also allow some separation between the park equipment and the splash pad, because with them so close together previously, the playground equipment surface, which I think was pea gravel, but will be wood chips, was kind of crossing over into the splash pad. So we're going to create some separations so that people can enjoy both, but there's more separations so that there's no impact. That splash pad will be going in, or is scheduled to be going in the spring, but there'll be more information going to the public on that project as we proceed. There was a street sweeper replacement identified. However, during the budget process, it's my understanding that there was some changes made to this item and that we were just going to proceed with some internal repair, rehabilitation to this. All we've completed to date is internal repairs, because once the budget was approved, we were in street sweeping time periods, and so we weren't able to send the piece of equipment away for long enough to get that work done. So instead, we have just been doing some ongoing maintenance internally with our mechanics, our internal mechanics. We are in the process of purchasing a new tow behind roller pack for the grader, as well as a new asphalt hot box reclaimer. We don't have them yet, but they will be purchased by the end of the year. Oh, and that is the end of that section. So
Victoria, on the roller packer and the asphalt hot box, like we passed those expenses back at budget time, and I was under the impression at that time that we would have them for 2025 work, but so I think I'm hearing we haven't purchased them yet. Is it-
That is my understanding. We don't have them, that's for sure. And
Okay.
I know sometimes these things have lead time to them, so there's a potential we've gone through the process to acquire them. We just don't actually have them in our ownership yet.
Okay, thanks for that. I think that, that asphalt hot box, I'm really looking forward to, having that available for the few potholes we have
Mhm.
here and there around the municipality.
It definitely provides us with more opportunity for doing, making sure that when we do patch a pothole, that it's not immediately coming out, like the asphalt isn't immediately coming out. We're putting essentially, like the asphalt that is in the road there instead of cold patch, which works, but it's just not as impactful. So this will definitely help with our operations for sure.
Thanks for that. And on the
Yep.
splash pad equipment, I know, there were workers there yesterday
Mm.
starting to move, some of the equipment, so, that's good.
Mhm.
Good if we can get that much done. Craig,
A question about the sweeper
Mhm.
and the need for a sweeper. Our street looks like a gravel road, many winters, and with the snow plow, it packs up on our lawn. And I'm just wondering about the safety of the fine gravel that's used. uh, For stopping, and also the inconvenience it has with the very fine mud that blows up and coats your windows. I'm talking about what street do I live in? Bayfield Street, sorry. That's can we use glycol at all down around the harbor so we don't get all that sediment put into the water? Or is that, what are the rules on using glycol except besides on hills?
We can definitely look into other things. So the intention of the street sweeper is to really get that off of the roads before it goes into the sewers. We also do complete cleaning of our sewers so that like sewers are designed to kind of hold some sediment. So we do clean them out so that it's not all just going to the bay. So there are things in place. And so the intention, or what we have been utilizing the street sweeper for, is to kind of make sure that our roads, when we can, that sediment, if it is building up on the roads, isn't going into our sewers. But for asphalt roads, that's kind of the typical process. I know obviously on our gravel roads, we utilize calcium to help keep the dust down, but obviously a very different situation. And so that's why we are trying to keep our street sweeper, like in good repair so that we can utilize it more. Not all municipalities own their own street sweeper. Some have programs where they just utilize a contract once or twice a year. But I know that since we do own it, we do utilize it throughout the spring, summer, and fall months.
It's just that it's not just the sweeper. I understand the need of the sweeper, and we see it coming back, 3 or 4 times a year. But it's the need for that gravel to be put on the roads in the first place. And the quality of the aggregate that's actually put on. Because there seems to be a really fine mud component that blows up. And this is relatively new. And actually coats your windows. It's hard to get them off. So I'm just questioning, can we use less gravel on the roads inside Meaford, on the paved roads, and use either quality gravel with no mud in it or glycol even?
So sorry, I'm just trying to understand what you're seeing, because I think maybe you're seeing something you shouldn't be. So you're seeing gravel on our asphalt roads.
Well, it was adding so much aggregate sand that it.
Oh, okay, I understand what
It
you're saying.
actually looks like
I understand what
a
you're saying.
gravel road
I understand.
instead of an asphalt road. And I've heard others in town complain about the same thing. And it builds up on your lawn because of the snow and that type of thing. It's hard to get off. And it's fairly new, that amount of sand that's being put on. And the sand quality needs to be looked at because it's got a really fine component in it that blows and coats.
Sorry, I understand what you're saying. Our winter sand program.
The winter sand program.
So, we utilize the same, sand that is utilized throughout the county. We are included in a county program, so that is what is being used throughout Grey County. We can look at different options, but I know that even the costs of that are quite significant. And the other options would have more of a cost implication. Seeing more on the roads really has to do with the variations in winters we've been seeing. And so the whole intention of utilizing it is to make sure that the roadways are safe for travel. And so with the freeze thaw that we are seeing, some winters we are having to put more on the roads, and then some of the warmer temperatures result in us putting less on the roads. So you would see differences from year to year. I haven't personally been involved with our operations team in recent years, but if there is a desire to know more, we can get more information. But that would probably be why you've seen a change, is just having the variations in winters that we have seen. There's probably more going on our roads.
Thanks, Victoria. Yeah, you mentioned we associate with the county to buy road material for the winter, and we do get a bit of a reduction in costs because of the huge quantity involved through the county. It's interesting. We don't seem to have a lot of alternatives to for applications on our winter roads. We've got salt, we've got sand or fine gravel, and they've been around for decades, and they still seem to be the best fix. I guess the problem is that if you cut back on the sand, then you're likely inclined to go more with salt. And you take a situation on Meaford Street, which is just a hop, step, and a jump from Georgian Bay. You don't really want more salt involved, and salt is I have the pleasure of sitting on our source water protection committee, which is basically Bruce and Grey County involvement, and certainly, particularly in the more southerly parts of our area and down southwestern Ontario, there's getting to be a growing concern about salt and clean water, source water protection. I know we just got a report, and it's not so much roads, it's more parking lots that are being polluted with salt. There's apparently a creek that runs into, I think it runs into Lake Simcoe, which is right in our backyard, but this tributary is actually down in the Newmarket area, and the water going in to Lake Simcoe from this creek is saltier than the ocean. So this is a juggling match. I mean, 20 years ago, beet juice was supposed to be the big answer for our roads, and it didn't really work all that well, other than make our roads a little bit purple. But it's an ongoing struggle. But I hear what you're saying. Okay, and speaking about water, our next slide deals, did we get finished? Was there anything more about the general capital slide? So if we'll go to water and wastewater, Victoria, then?
Fantastic. So we didn't have that many projects for our water wastewater this year. We have completed the chlorinator replacement. It's been delivered. We're just waiting for the installation of it. We are doing a bit more review of our wash and rewash valve replacement. We have already done one of these. However, the one that needs to be completed has some constraints. And so we just need to understand a little bit more how we can install this unit in the space that we have. And then we have completed and installed the online chlorine analyzer. So moving forward onto our ongoing projects. So these are projects that have been started, but are still occurring. We have been working on the inverted siphon replacement. So these are pipes that go underneath the Big Head River and take all of the sewage from the north part of urban Meaford to the south side so that they can make it to the wastewater treatment plant. With the development we're seeing on the north end of town, these pipes, we are concerned that they are nearing capacity. So they're functioning fine and in okay shape. The other constraint is that obviously they go under the river, but they're also concrete encased. So it does create an interesting project. We have done some testing on the pipes to see what the roughness of the current pipes are, because it really impacts the amount of flow we can get through them. The testing we have had done was gave us some information, but we felt that it was a bit inconclusive because they weren't able to do some things that they would have liked. And so we're looking at getting some additional testing completed to see if we have a little bit of time before they reach capacity or if there is more, really depending on that roughness coefficient. We could be nearing capacity of those, or we could have an additional 20 to 30 years of capacity. So it really does impact them significantly. And so we just want to make sure that we understand what is there before we spend money. These would be development charge funded for this project. This group saw an updated report as well as council on the wastewater treatment plant during the summer months, if I'm not mistaken. We are on maybe longer timeline than we had originally thought with this project, but we will be reviewing kind of next steps and be looking at proceeding with design in the upcoming years, even if construction is pushed out a little bit longer than we thought, because we need to have a design ready to go when that construction is required. As well with the grant funding we're seeing coming from the province and federal government right now, they're really looking for construction ready projects. And so by having that design done, when it is time to proceed, and if there is grant funding available, we can be good candidates for it. Whereas right now with the design not completed, it impacts our ability to get that grant funding. So we will be using the budget that we have from 2025, which again includes a significant amount of development charges as we proceed with the design of that project. The Trowbridge reconstruction project, which was asked about earlier, it is currently under design. The project itself, we have a very clear idea of what we want to do, but unfortunately, through investigation, the soil is a concern. And so we are taking the time to make sure that we are finding an adequate solution for that location. The existing soil for that whole road section. So as Councillor Greenfield had identified, from Sykes Street all the way to the bend where that road turns into Owen Street, the soil cannot support pipes or a road base. And so that's why you're seeing the road deterioration you are in those locations, and why as staff we're seeing the impact to our underground infrastructure. So we're just making sure that we're finding the right solution so that when we do proceed with that project, we get the outcome that we're hoping. So the design is taking longer than we would like, but we want to make sure we focus on getting the right result before we proceed with construction. And that amount that is budgeted there was to help with the construction cost. So it is anticipated that the project will cost more than the $4 or almost $5 million that we have already budgeted. And so this money will be set aside with additional funding that we would be looking for when we do proceed with construction for that project. For structure one rehabilitation, we are reevaluating it and we are looking to proceed with construction in 2026. This is a project where when we did go out for tender originally to get the construction work done, the pricing we got back did not match up with the engineer estimate. And it's just because it is somewhat unique work. It's just not done often. It's not that it's overly complicated, but we are looking at making sure it's a steel culvert, a large steel culvert. And so we're just looking at extending the life of it, but we want to make sure we're doing that within a reasonable budget so that the investment we're making makes sense for the actual life that that structure still has. And so we've done some reviews internally, and we're doing some more as part of the 2025 bridge inspections to make sure that we spend what we need to make sure that we provide longevity to the bridge, but we do not spend more, which then essentially wouldn't, or we could instead be doing full reconstruction for not that much more money. So we're just trying to make sure that we're doing the right thing. It is on, I'm probably going to say, I don't know if it's concession 21. It's on the connector road between kind of like Owen Sound into northern Meaford. Again, signing up so I can get the actual name right for you. But it connects
Concessioning goes over towards the Owen Sound boundary.
Yeah.
Is that, does Bothwell's Creek go under that, or Bothwell's or what, Telfer, whatever they call
Well, I
it?
got you listening. Can they line a culvert that large?
So the culvert is actually in good condition. The main concern is the existing welds and where the bolts are. That's the issue. So it's the whole culvert itself is in good condition. It's just we just have specific points that need work done. And originally it was being looked at that potentially we'd do some investigation of the bottom of the culvert as well. But that's where we were really running into some increases in price because we would have to reroute the river and it just becomes a lot more expensive. We do that in some cases, but in this one in particular, for what we would get out of it, most of our concern is above water. So we just want to make sure that we are getting what we need done, but without it costing too much. And so we are looking at options to stay within the budget that we already have, so that we wouldn't be needing to increase it. The Meaford Hall barrier-free compliance renovation is complete. The amount here was what was spent to date when we put this together, but I know we have just recently completed it, so there will be some additional funds going towards it. This really mainly included us redoing the box office so that it is accessible, so lowering the desk space so that people coming in can utilize it properly. So I do have some photos of it on the next slide or a following slide that we can take a peek at it. The bucket truck radial boom is being purchased, and we're hoping that it'll be completed by the end of the year. Does anyone have any questions on those? Yes.
Thank you. I do have questions, and maybe in general, if you don't have a specific answer, but it's a great concern to me about sewage capacity and then the inverted siphon. So is there a number or a range of what the sewage capacity is in terms of units that we might be able to express? You talked about development on the north end, and if they end up getting 800 new homes up there over the next 5 years, that's going to be phased in, of course, but where are we at in reserves now?
So with regards to our wastewater treatment plant
Yeah.
specifically, okay. So the difficulty with treatment, whether water or wastewater, is that those numbers are constantly changing. And so since I have been off, the staff have continued obviously to review where that sits. And we have been working to reduce inflow and infiltration into our sanitary system. So that's removing any rainwater or groundwater that's been getting in. We do have some significant, or had and still have some significant concerns with it that we are working on rectifying. And so with some of the work that we have done and potentially changes to what people have as fixtures in their homes, or just, like depending on weather, we've seen a significant decrease in the volumes at the wastewater treatment plant. And so while a couple years ago we were nearing 75 to 80% capacity at the plant, we are currently back down to 55 to 60%. We had a similar dip that occurred the last time we went through this process to go through the environmental assessment for the wastewater treatment plant. So back in 2007, I think, when we did it an EA for the first time. Again, we were seeing those 70 to 80% capacity range. And then it dipped in 2015 to, again, about 55, 56%. And so there's different things that kind of cause that, not having to or be able to improve the system and decrease the amount of rainwater and groundwater getting in has definitely helped significantly. So it's something that we need to we are continuing to monitor. So we do look at the number of units we have, but they're very theoretical because, again, they change kind of from year to year depending on what usages we're seeing. So that's why it's important that we continue to look at proceeding with the design, because if we're then starting to see those numbers peak again, especially as new units come on, then we can react and proceed with that construction. There's also options, to have some interim ability to treat things if we really get to that point. So they're all options that we can consider, but we really want to, make sure we're being responsible and getting the work done when we need it, but obviously not too soon either. It's a huge investment. And if we can utilize what we currently have without that investment, I think there's also pieces of the new treatment plant that we could kind of phase in. Our headworks at our current plant needs to be replaced. And so we could look at expanding that first so that we're not seeing the full impact of the costs all at once. We can kind of do the work in pieces and as we need to make sure that we have that capacity that we need there. So I know that's not a straight answer, but it's not necessarily like unfortunately, it's not a linear item. And so that's why, you know, like there have been varying staff reports that identify a need and then maybe less of a need. But I think we're at a point where we know that the need is coming. And so we will continue to proceed with it, but making sure that we're doing and pulling the trigger at the right time. But I think doing design in the near future will benefit us so that we're ready, so that when we do get to the point of needing the capacity at the plant, we're ready to go with it.
Yeah, I understand the need for having your engineering for build-ready projects. And it seems to me that whenever you replace 1800s era pipes in the ground, your numbers go down. And then you've accomplished that, and then somebody builds 7 or 12 houses, and then, you know, capacity. And as I understand, the Ministry of Environment doesn't want you to operate at greater than 80% capacity. Isn't that some kind of guidelines set for wastewater treatment?
So that's when they, between 75 and 80% is when they recommend that you start the process
Yeah, okay.
essentially to upgrade your plant. And so that's when they recommend at a minimum, you should be doing that EA process, which we have completed. So we have done the environmental assessment to determine options and identify what our preferred option is for expansion on that site. So we are in the process kind of. And so I think with even seeing those lower percentages of use, like there is still need for us to continue because we've seen those higher usages.
Yep.
And so, and we're seeing development.
Yep.
So it's,
We're not going to shrink here.
no.
And then the inverted siphon, is there one line under the river, or are there 2 lines under the river?
So there's 2,
Okay.
but they work in conjunction. It's not like a redundancy thing. We utilize both of them. So we have been doing studies and like looking at options. And so the pipe sizes don't actually need to be increased that significantly to allow for a significant amount more flow through them. But again, the big factor that really determines whether or not we're okay for a while or we're not is the roughness of those pipes. And so we just want to make sure that we fully understand it before we spend a bunch of money on something that maybe we don't need quite yet, because they are in fine condition. It's not a condition problem. It's a capacity problem.
Great.
Where are the significant choke points for the wastewater sewers? From going from the north along 26 down across the river to the sewage treatment plant. Are there any real choke points that can be concerned with?
So right now, we don't have any concerns with the size of our sanitary sewer pipe, except for the siphon. So only the pipe under the Big Head River, that is our only concern to this point. Every time that developers come, we do require them, when they have significant enough size developments, to provide information so that we can put it in our sewer and water models so that we can understand how they all work together. Because obviously, if you're looking at one by itself, you might not understand how a neighboring development might have impacts on a system, especially when they're going through the same pipes. And there's been no concerns that we have right now with our sanitary pipes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just one question to about actual drinking water.
Mhm.
I think it was just last week, we had a real funky swampy smell in our drinking water, and it went away in 2 days, but it was real. Were they chlorinating or washing out pipes, do you know, this past week, or?
So I'm not aware of anything
Okay.
specific, but it doesn't mean that there wasn't something going on. Sometimes it could be, like we could have had a main break in a location close to you. And so, like there is a need for us to do stuff. There could have been, there's various reasons. If you ever have concern, feel free to contact the municipality, but.
It went away. I understand wastewater and water, and it was a real swampy smell, and but it went away by itself. So that's a good thing.
That's
I'm
good.
just curious as to what it might have been.
We could check with Emily, with Ms. Howard. George? you-
Sorry, there was a break at SCP Properties and it was patched. And while the line's open, they could get some infiltration, so they go pretty quickly at it. And that was kind of just due west of you.
Was there one?
Yeah, they had, it was right on the private property, but it was bubbling up.
Go ahead, George.
Thank you. Just want to build off a couple of fellow committee members' questions here. We talked about the sewers, and I understand there's no choke points in the collection system. I assume that's the same thing with all the various pumping stations in the municipality.
Yes, so we do know that pump station 1, which is what takes the feed from the siphons, will be the next point of concern, but not right now. So as developments come online, it will be something that we'll have to look at. We will be looking at doing an update to our water and wastewater master plans, and also our models at the same time. Either this upcoming year or the following year. And so it will provide us a better update, but we have had some engineering review on that in recent years, just to make sure that as we're seeing more development, that we're not forgetting about ensuring that development is paying for the increases that are needed. So if there are increases needed at any of our pump stations, it is the responsibility of development to pay for them.
Thank you. And I just had a couple questions about the wastewater treatment plant expansion. We talked a little bit about during the July committee meeting, and understand that, you know, there was the staff report that went to council, that in recent years, the flow that's actually been received at the plant has been decreased. Has that continued in 2025? I know the 2024 annual report indicated that. I was just curious if there's any preliminary indications from this past year.
That's a great question. I haven't seen any numbers, but we do put updates on our website with that information. We won't see them until 2026 for 2025. Yeah, we can, if an update comes about the wastewater treatment plant, we can definitely identify some of those items.
And I think, you know, one of the reasons for that decrease that was discussed was some of the relining of existing sewers, replacement. Are some more of those initiatives planned in coming years?
Yeah, so we've actually been working on our asset management planning, and through that, we have identified that we're going to continue with the relining program. There's benefits both for dealing with infiltration into our system, but also just extending the life of pipes, even if they're not seeing infiltration. And so by incorporating that into our rehab and reconstruction process, it will definitely have like double benefit. And so we are looking at continuing with that work.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay. These are the carry forward projects. And so carry forward projects are projects that we were not able, they were budgeted in previous years, but we have not been able to get started on for various reasons. And so these include the Memorial Park Road reconstruction. It's being re-scoped. We were looking at doing this work with a larger project on the roadway leading up to Memorial Park. But because of some other concern areas with our water, wastewater, that project is being delayed. And so we just want to make sure that this work actually proceeds. And so we'll be doing resurfacing next year, utilizing the money that was in the 2025 budget. We are currently continuing to work on the Bayshore Road rehabilitation and water service replacement. A majority of the work is complete. We did have some issues occur with some of our culvert installations. And so we are going to have to do some work to correct those. And that's mainly what we are waiting on. And so we are working from our end to make sure that this work gets done as soon as possible. But we are hoping to get some more information and be able to provide some more updates in the upcoming weeks to the residents in this location. The Nelson Street parking lot, it is planned to proceed in 2026. This project was hoped to be done in conjunction with some EV chargers. Unfortunately, we were not successful in getting some grant funding that we were needing to proceed with the EV charger installation. And so we will be proceeding with the project without those, but we will be putting conduit in so that if that we are successful in the future, that we can then install them in this location. The camera upgrades, this was done in conjunction with our fob key system implementation. And so the intention of this project was to create some more security in our municipal buildings. Previously, we were utilizing keys or punch codes, but with staff turnover and just access by contractors and different people, we were recognizing that we needed something that provided more security to our buildings. And so we've implemented the key system and it has been working great. The cameras will be done in conjunction with them to complete the work that they want to do. There is additional funds, and so it will be coming back in the 2026 budget to be asking for those additional funds so that that project can actually get completed as well. The harbor patio project has been canceled at this point. So that money will just be going into those reserves to help with future projects. We are currently reviewing the municipal signage replacement project and will proceed once we have a full plan in place for that. The Peter Cameron Park equipment replacement has been completed, but there is some deficiency work that is getting wrapped up on that project. The Lakeview Cemetery Fountain refurbishment, there was an update report that went to council and was just passed at this past council meeting. And so there is a bit more wholesome review happening, but council I know wishes that this project still proceeds. We completed external works at 15 Trowbridge. This included some door and window replacements as well as painting, parging, just to make sure that the building was being upkept properly, as it is quite a beautiful building. The Meaford Hall chiller is complete, but there is some ongoing deficiency work that we are just wrapping up. We have completed picnic table replacement, so we complete and replace a certain percentage of our picnic tables annually. We have completed a beach washroom improvement. We were able to do this with our internal staff, which allowed for the costs to be significantly less than what we had originally budgeted. We are currently doing engineering for our low lift pump replacement. These are the pumps that draw water from the bay into our water treatment plant. The facility is quite old, and those pumps were put in as the building was being constructed. So we are working to figure out how to get them out and new ones put in without it being a larger project. And so the engineering is a very important part of this project. We will be installing Memorial Park Playground improvements or completing them in the spring of 2026 before the park opens. We are starting engineering currently for a dock electrical and water upgrades. We haven't spent anything to date, but we'll be continuing to work on those. We are doing some work at the Harbor House to upgrade the exterior. So we have replaced the front door and we are just determining the work that we need to do on the siding as well as some window replacements and just the order of what that work needs to occur in so that we get the best outcome. We will be doing some of that work again with our own internal forces. We have the river dock replacement number 2. We're in the process of developing the tender. However, we're making sure that we are getting the right thing for us and the user groups with knowing that right now there's dredging happening in our harbor. We just want to make sure that what we're putting in has longevity. And so we're making sure that before we put that tender out, it is what we need so that it can be best utilized by our residents. And the Harbor Pavilion retaining wall replacement is ongoing. And so once we get a contractor for that, we will be replacing that work. And just going back, this is the work that we did in Meaford Hall. So as you can see, we have changed the box office so that it is more accessible. And we've improved the counter height width and enhanced lighting in this area. And we've also done some work to the room that's beside it, including the addition of a television so that there's more information that we're able to provide to residents and other people who utilize Meaford Hall. So if you have any questions on any of those, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Victoria. A lot of information there. Craig?
Just about parking, on Nelson Street, that one. We've got an awful lot of public parking and it's all free and there's a lot of it centered around downtown. I'm just wondering if Nelson Street parking lot, well, one issue too is that it seems that there's a lot of permanent parking by residents in the public parking spots on the main street and elsewhere. I don't know the numbers, but I know it exists. So we're creating public parking for private individuals all night long, for instance. Nelson Street parking, maybe if it could be just ripped up a bit and put some nice stone gravel on it for infiltration, that might suffice and save some money if it's not too late. Thank you.
Yeah.
So our main concern is that we're looking for year-round parking, or that has what been identified. And we can't effectively plow that space in the winter. And as like winter plowing typically causes there to be less parking spaces elsewhere because we need snow storage in our parking lots. And so the intention of this is to kind of create some of those additional parking spaces. There have been studies done to identify a need for more parking downtown, and that's where the basis of this project got developed from and why the land was originally purchased. The other constraint with this project is there is contamination on the site, and so we will be working to clean up a portion of the site with the project. Yes, it has been gravel for a number of years and functioning, but for long term, it has been identified that if this space is to be utilized as parking and to provide that parking need downtown, that an asphalt parking lot is needed. And yes, asphalt parking lots are expensive.
The $950,000 price tag, Victoria, did that include the EV chargers, or is that with
No.
okay, so
It is just for the parking lot itself.
Okay.
I can look back to see it might include. No, I don't think so, because we were looking at grant funding, 90% of those. So the price would be quite insignificant if we had have been successful with that.
I certainly hear what you're saying, Craig. I mean, it has been a parking lot for a number of years and has served the purpose. Aesthetically speaking, it's not that attractive. And for snow clearing, there's going to have to be some more discussion about that final product. I think anyway. There's no doubt about it. We need the parking, and it is utilized. Any further questions on any of the slides? Any of the information? I do have a couple of things I wanted to mention. Concerning Trowbridge Street seems to be it's um, developing into a problem that a much bigger problem than what we had anticipated and we had hoped for. The price tag on that was just about 5 million, and on talking with our CAO a couple of weeks ago, he's worried that it's might end up substantially more than that amount. So, I was just wondering, it's likely premature right now, but in the future, is it possible for us to have somebody from GSS, no, GSS Engineering come to one of our committee meetings? And again, I don't think we're quite there yet, but you know, if we are end up looking at $7-8 million or whatever for that project, it'd be I think it's a project of great interest, and now mind you, a lot of that expense is going to be water and sewer fees in the future, and I think we're all aware of water and sewer fees of today are they're pricey, they're costly. So I'm just wondering if maybe we could have somebody from the engineering firm come and explain what actually is this soil, how bad is it, and how do you perhaps deal with this kind of project. I mean, it's easy to dig out soil, but what do you do with all those pipes in there in the meantime? Like they still have to have water and sewer service. So that's one. The other one I'm wondering about, and maybe staff can help me. Council is at the Roma conference, Rural Ontario Municipal Association conference, which is coming up basically mid-January, which is not that far away. We are, as I understand it, hoping to get a delegation concerning the connecting link, the downtown, concerns with speed and traffic calming initiatives, the notorious St. Vincent stoplights, where every morning at 8:30 and every afternoon at 3:30 there's a traffic jam there, thanks to the school. So I just wondering, I don't know how far along we've got on that, Victoria, or maybe Allison, you're into this too, but I just wonder if the committee maybe had any thoughts of, hey, what should we be putting in our presentation? What do we, and here again, it's kind of geared to the urban area of town. So just something to keep in mind. I'm not sure, Sue, I don't think we really know if we're going to have a January meeting or not. It's still, and yeah, go ahead, Allison.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Greenfield. We are working on a report to council that will lay out some next steps for committees, but right now we do not have a January meeting scheduled.
Okay, so Mr. Everett, that's November 17th. He's gonna present a report on the committee system, I guess, not only our committee, but okay. We've got committee inquiries, and now unless you have something more about the slides, and Michael. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to thank Victoria for that very wholesome report. Thank you. I did miss a meeting earlier this year, so I'm grateful to receive that. A couple of quick questions that maybe we could talk about. Georgian Trail is a very highly used park in Meaford. And it's not being maintained by CN anymore, and it's starting to grow in. So there are some really narrow points. Is there any plan for widening the trail, perhaps? There's a 66-foot wide parkland that we use about 25 feet of. I know it would be expensive to widen it, but there's a lot of tree growing in and hazards. That's one question, if I can. And then the other one is there's a patch requirement on St. Vincent Street right near the harbor that's been sitting unpatched for 6 months. I wonder if that was going to get patched.
Yes, there is, Victoria.
So first for the Georgian Trail widening, I am not aware of anything, but it doesn't directly fall under me. So I'm not saying that there isn't anything happening, but I can bring it back to the Parks and Rec team who are responsible for that trail system. With regards to the patching, we do have a patching contract that should be completed in the upcoming weeks. We typically, unfortunately, things get left sometimes depending on when when the work had to happen that ended up ripping up the road. We do it as one contract, and so sometimes they do get left for a while, but it is planned to be done as part of our 2025 patching contract, which
TikTok.
contractors seem busy, so
Yeah.
but it is on that list. So when patching happens, that will get completed.
Thank you. One final point, which may be able to be answered, but our local MPP recently announced 1.7 million for Meaford from the province. Where are you going to spend that?
How many fingers and toes have you got?
I also saw that money come through my email, and it was exciting for me. As we're finalizing budget, we will be allocating it to different locations. I always have the desire to be spending it on capital, but I do know that it also identified that the funds could go towards some operational work as well. So we'll just have to make sure that we're following the requirements of the funding. But we have been trying to utilize that money to kind of help with some of our combined infrastructure projects. To speak to Councillor Greenfield's comment on Trowbridge Street, it is quite an expensive project, but it's always been planned to be quite expensive. It's more expensive than we have probably seen in recent years. And the main reason for that is because it's a significantly larger project than we have been doing. We are hoping to kind of work with economy of scale to see if we can actually reduce unit costs because we're doing more work, and hopefully as well bring in more attraction from different contractors who have a desire to do bigger projects, to see if we can get a more competitive bid process. So it's definitely a large project for us, but when we do proceed with construction, we're hoping to see some benefits of that. The soil conditions are definitely adding to the costs, and so that's why we're really working to see and spend the time during engineering to make sure that we fully understand what that is and what our options are, so that we don't see increased costs from the start, but also then additional increased cost during construction because maybe we didn't spend the time now to fully understand it. And so we did understand that it was going to be an expensive project, but as we really finalize engineering, we'll get a better understanding of exactly what that looks like. I also just wanted to mention that the parking lot project, about $500,000 of it is not coming directly from our tax supported budget. So we will be pulling some from different pockets of money that has been allocated previously. So in 2021, council decided to put 200 $11,000 from our PILT settlement towards that property. As well as we do have some DCs, so development charge money going into it. There was a sale of an additional property that was allocated to the parking lot. So there is a significant amount of it being funded from other sources than just taxes. And lastly, before I forgot, because I was hoping to say this during the presentation, but if you're looking back at that budget presentation, you might note that there's a couple of things that are different. The funding might differ in some spots, and that was just because I updated some of the numbers to include the total amount of funding, not just the amount funded through 2025. So some of them had money either coming from reserves, DCs, different pockets, and it wasn't just the tax supported budget. And so I wanted to make sure when I was showing the like actual costs and the budgeted costs that we were showing the full budgeted costs. Otherwise it would look like the projects were well over their budget, but they were within it. So you might see some variations there if you look back at that previous report. As well, there was a couple of projects that you might see in that original one that you don't see in this one. They're just outside of my scope of work that I'm working on. So I just didn't get a chance to get updated information. So I didn't include them in this, but we can give more information on them if there is a desire. But just so that if you are looking back between the original presentation and this one and you see some variations, that's why.
Do you think the state of the roadbed on Trowbridge Street is as a result of the state of the infrastructure leaking to create, for the lack of a better word, sinking mud or you know, if you get the pipes out of the way and dewater and then backfill with proper gravel, is it going to work?
So my understanding is that it's not groundwater that's the concern. It's the actual just material that exists there. We did do multiple test holes and then additional digging to have a visual inspection of it. And throughout, they were seeing the same type of soil conditions. There are a number of different ways to deal with it. And yes, like there are options of just digging everything up and replacing it all. It's quite expensive. And also, as Councillor Greenfield identified, we have pipes that we need there. So we would be having everyone on temporary water main, temporary sanitary sewer. And so we are working right now to figure out other options, if available, to provide us with an acceptable endpoint, but potentially utilizing different either materials or different construction methods so that we can both keep the costs down, but also reduce the impact to residents and businesses during construction, but end up with the same result. And so we know that this is the time to do that properly, instead of just rushing ahead and recognizing that we don't end up with the product or the cost that we would like to see.
Can we get that report or the geotechnical report for Trowbridge Street to see what's found? Because it seems to be located only at Thompson Street. I mean, that's a really nasty part of that road.
We typically do not provide that information out, but we are utilizing it with our engineers to make sure that we are getting the results we need. The soil is like essentially the same throughout. So while you might be seeing certain deterioration from an operations perspective, we see the deterioration throughout, and we definitely see it in our pipes as well. And so yeah, we will be relying kind of on the engineers that are working on the project to utilize the information that was in the geotechnical report.
But the technical report is being done. It's finished now, and why can't we have a look at it then?
I can go back, and it's not typically information we give out, but I can go back and see if it's something that.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm wondering if there's some kind of in-between level that of material that we could see, like if in my case, not being an engineer like some people are, um, seeing something too involved, it'd be like the interpreting Latin or Chinese, and I couldn't, but if I'd be interested in, and I think I speak for the committee members of learning, some more information about what the problem really is. We're not. I don't think. I don't think we're trying to second guess the engineer's opinions and like Victoria is an engineer. So but we're talking big dollars here, or likely huge dollars here, and that just uh, I feel would be a benefit to know just a little bit more about what might be involved there.
Well, it could be handled in-house and confidential. I mean,
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
so-
yeah, there are limits, that's for sure, that we can go to. And I'm sure our staff is aware of those limits of what can be provided and what can.
And something that we could look at doing, we're just not there yet, but we could definitely, as we're continuing and maybe getting closer to the end of engineering, we could definitely provide an update on the project and provide some specifics on the soil conditions and what we're running into, and other project constraints as well. And so maybe that's a way that we can provide an update. We're still working through it ourselves with the engineer. And so when we get to a point where that is, we're at a point where it would make sense to do that, we could definitely bring a specific update on the project to this committee.
Thanks, Victoria. If there's nothing further, I do have to go through this communications message. Committee will consider correspondence received by members of the public during each meeting. To share your comments, thoughts, or concerns with members of the committee, the public can send an email to deputyclerk@meaford.ca. When emails are received to this email address, they will be compiled into a correspondence list, which is then distributed to committee members prior to each meeting. The cover sheet of this list will be included on each meeting agenda. The contents of the correspondence list are not included on the public agenda to protect the privacy and personal information of those residents who choose to send in their thoughts and comments. Okay, last chance. If there's nothing more, I guess we'll wait until November 17th until when Mr. Everett brings forward a report concerning all of our committees. And at that point, I want to once again thank the members for coming out this afternoon and being involved, and thank our staff members. Victoria, you are a wealth of knowledge, and we appreciate, and thanks to all of you. So with that, I'll call the meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.